Today I have part 2 of my security camera install, and today is going to be the camera portion of it. So let's get started. Hey guys, welcome back to GeekSmart. And so I have here part 2 of my video. So before I started the installing the NVR, the network video recorder. So the front end, as it were, of this camera system. This is the security camera we're going to install to go along with that. And then we're going to have a third video that's going to basically go through the whole features of actually tying the two together. So with that said, I have the camera here. So this is TrendNet's. I had that upside down, didn't I? This is their indoor-outdoor 4 megapixel PoE IR camera. It's a dome camera, so essentially that just means it has a nice dome. I have the box here. I've already opened and looked at it real quick. I haven't taken anything out of the packaging. But let's bring the camera in, and we'll kind of do an unboxing and show you all the parts it comes with. Alright, so we have the box that it obviously came in. That's kind of the shell, and this kind of was inside that. Inside here, we have drill templates. So we can use this if you want to basically line up where your holes are for security. So it's 3 security points. And then the center point where the actual wire comes out, you can have it go directly through the wall or through the ceiling or through whatever you're going to do. I'm going to go through some aluminum softening. But that is the template. It is a sticker. Okay, cool. So you can actually stick it directly to wherever you're going to do it and go from there. So there's that. Instruction book. Obviously all the instructions on how to actually power it up and connect to your stuff. This would be your waterproof housing for the actual PoE or the network plug. We probably will be using that. Looks like drywall anchors, so you can anchor it to drywall. In this case, I'm going to install it to, like I said, aluminum softening, so we're probably not going to use that screw, but we'll see. So it does come with the security bit screw, or key, I guess as it is. I do have these as well, but it's great that you don't have to have special tools to get into the camera, because and it looks like it also a nice cloth to clean out the lens. And then we have the camera. And this is actually why I opened it up before, is I wanted to know how big this end was. And it was a lot bigger than I anticipated. But that said, here's the camera itself. Now, when you pull this apart, you should be able to angle where you're going to point the camera, both twisting as well as elevation, which we'll get into as well. And then in here, you can see the center point where the wire comes out. You can actually have that go directly through the substrate that you're attaching to, or you can see they actually have a cutout here. So if you actually were running it down the wall, maybe in like some wire molding or something like that, you can actually, or have it exposed for that matter, you can do it that way as well and just anchor it directly to a surface without worrying about bringing the cable in from behind for a hidden cable look. We're going for a hidden cable look because I've already ran the cable. It's already done. So I'm essentially going to drill a hole for this wire through aluminum softening. Therein lies the issue. Now, I could make a large enough hole where I'm not worried about this hitting aluminum softening and cutting the cable eventually, but I really didn't want to go with that. So I was trying to figure out a way real quick to get that done, and what I came up with, and this is actually just because of the size of the ends, and I didn't want to go out and buy any more stuff, so I had this kind of sitting around. Just a wire clip, and we have just the threaded pieces here. And what I did is I actually went out to my shop and just cut open the side, because I can't actually fit this through it. But what I can do is lay it through it, right? And bring this through and then attach them, right? And essentially this is just going to fill the void around the aluminum soffit hole, so the real sharp edges are less likely, at least, to damage the cable. That's kind of what I'm thinking. I'd rather do something like this than not. And of course this clip will pull the wire away so it stays away from the edge that's going to be exposed, because I had to cut open the edge here. So something that I'm going to do that's aside from this that you don't need to do, but just kind of how I'm doing it. So alright, there's that. So, PoE, like I said, it does take Ethernet, but it is PoE, so you don't have to use this power. This is the secondary power option if you're not running power over Ethernet. In my case, I am going to run power over Ethernet because I'm actually directly running this into their NVR system, which has PoE ports. But if you were going to run it on just a traditional IP and you do not have access to a PoE switch, you can run 12 volt directly into this guy, and it'll power the camera while this sends out the video feed. So a couple options. I'm glad that it has that option. I'm not going to use it, but I dislike how large these ends are. I wish, I was considering actually cutting this thing to get it to feed through this, to actually feed through it, because this end would actually go through. It's the RJ45 end that's just ridiculous. It's just huge. So, and I didn't have any larger options of this. And I know I could go out to the store and buy a larger one, but this is what I have. So it's free because I had it sitting in my garage, so I'm gonna use it. That said, we are gonna use this as well. This, like I said, what you do is you feed your cable through this portion of it. If I can show you. So it kind of goes together. Well, so this essentially just goes on the cable itself, and then your RJ45 is going to stick out. You plug it together, you slide this down the cable, and then it waterproofs the end, as it is where your standard RJ45 is going to plug in. So we are going to use that. We might as well. And that probably goes over this. So that makes sense to me. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to put the cable. I'm basically going to slide the cable through, terminate the cable with my RJ45 end on it while this is on the cable shaft. Plug it in and then slide this down. I'm not going to show all of that on video, but I will show at least the final product because I'm going to be up in the attic and I don't want to deal with shooting up in the attic too much at least. But let's go ahead and let's go outside and work on mounting this camera, getting the holes put in, and yeah, I guess dealing with that because we're going to have to deal with this, which is going to be fun. So that said, yeah, it's going to be fun because I'm going to have another person hold this camera while I get this sleeve put in. Not the most enjoyable thing in the world, but it is what it is. Got our stuff. Let's go up. You know what? Before we go up, I should show you what the mount part looks like, because this is the whole camera already put together. Let's use the security bit driver here that they give us. Then I don't have to go get mine. And technically it's not actually a security bit, it actually is just a Torx. So there's no center point, no center key. So you take this apart. I must have hit that one all the way. There we go. And they are attached, so like if you're working on it, you can actually let that hang down. Screws shouldn't fall out either. But there's our holes right there, right there, right there. That's what we're actually going to set into whatever you're attaching to. And then you should be able to adjust the camera. So they have it zip tied for shipping, it looks like. That's interesting. I've never seen that before, so you can kind of see the zip tie in there with some beads of some sort. Okay, I've never seen that silica jacket before, but I actually looked in the owner's manual before I did anything with it. It says not to remove it. So, that little zip-tied silica packet that's down in there, we actually are supposed to leave that in there. So, on the side, there are a couple screws, Phillips, that allow you to tilt the camera. There we go. Now they're loose, so now we can actually... let me show it towards you. Now we can actually tilt the camera, right? And then we can actually rotate the camera to get it a vertical upright picture. So that's how we're going to do that. Then we're going to work on that later. For now, I'm going to go ahead and tighten those screws back up. That way it's not jittering around in there. And I'm going to throw this back over it for now so we don't get dust and stuff in there. And of course, this is going to be your cleaning cloth for removing any dust or anything that you get in there before you actually close the camera up. You probably want to do a wipe down of the lenses and the dome. So, alright, sorry about that. Let's go, let's now actually go upstairs and take a peek at what we're dealing with. and see if we can't install it real quick. Alright, so this is my front door. And that is where I'm going to put it. Basically right up in this corner here. And so you can see the aluminum softening. I can get to that aluminum softening from my attic, so it's pretty easy to get to. I already have the Cat 6 cable sitting up there up on top of the wall, essentially. And so I'm going to go ahead and stick the template on there, and we're going to take a peek at that. Looks to me like I'm going to do some cleaning while I'm out here after this winter. It looks like lots of cobwebs. But anyway, you can see I have the template up there now. So all I have to do is drill a hole through those small little guys, and then the center hole is going to be however big of a hole you want to make it for whatever you do. Now I can't find my step bit, so I'm going to kind of wing it to try to create the hole big enough for my little guy. But that said, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Let me put me on the tripod and get these holes drilled. So for these, I just used a 3/32 inch bit and put a hole in it. Apparently I wasn't recording, but just these 3 holes real quick. This one's actually in solid wood here, so that one's going to hit real good. The other 2 are just in the aluminum. Now I could put backer board or something to hold it up and give it a little more security to it. We're going to see how it sets first. Then I'm going to drill this one, then I'm going to take the sticker off. Don't judge me on this one. I can't find my step bit. I can't find the right bits for it, but I'm going to give a wood bit a try, because why not? Well, it seemed to work pretty good. Well, I could screw it in, I guess. So, let me ream that out a little bit. Hopefully that's big enough. Hey, that'll work. Alright. In this case, this is going to be coming down from the top, but at least now I know it fits. Now that we're done with the template, we can go ahead and remove that sticker. This removes easy, that's good. And so we have our 3 holes, plus our center hole for the actual cable itself. And now, it's time to get some help. Well, my plans changed a little bit. So this is still going to go in the hole, but I won't be able to use the actual lock collar because this plastic piece right here, it won't get enough, really, I don't think, for it to really need to be on there. Let me find out again here. Maybe I can. Maybe I can. I just don't want to. I don't want it to bulge at all. So yeah, we'll have to play with it. But that's the one thing I didn't account for, that little plastic piece, because it adds another 3/16 of an inch in thickness, and I need to make sure that whatever comes down, I might be able to still do this. I got my helper. I'm gonna jump up in the attic, and you'll know, because I'll actually pull it up halfway, and I'll stick this down, and then you'll collar it through. Okay?
Okay.
And I got it. You having problems?
I can't get it on.
I got the camera. Go ahead.
Okay.
Just take your time.
Okay.
Good?
Yeah.
Alright, the camera should be good, you can leave it. Tighten them out. So I got my screws, there we go. Screwdriver. I'm going to do it manually rather than power for now. I'm going to go ahead and loosen this guy back up. I just had it together just so it didn't dangle all over the place. Should have it lined up recently. Now this turns side to side, so don't worry about that specifically, but at least aim it in a general direction. That's good enough. I just want it there to protect. Oh, I don't want to scratch that against the... that's something to say. Maybe I'll turn this. Yeah, there's no good way to turn that so it doesn't possibly scratch. I should have thought of that, huh? Because I don't really want this facing forward, which is where they have this dangling. So it is what it is. Okay, I'm going to aim this generally at least where I think I want it. Okay. I'm probably going to have it back and realign that later. Well, that just worked out perfect for the TrendNet to come straight out. I don't know why I'm tightening this up. I should leave it loose at least a little bit. So now I have it roughly there. I might have to come out, but I need to know what it looks like before I do that. Until I do that, I have to go up and connect it with the RJ45 end. So like I said, you'll want to slide this over the cable before you actually terminate the end of the cable. So in this case, I slid it over, and now I'm going to go ahead and install my RJ45 on the end, which will then eventually plug into, oh, sorry about the shadow, the camera, which is down there. So this is what it'll look like before we actually go plug it in. Then we'll plug it in, and then we'll slide this over it and screw it on tight, and yeah, we'll go from there. So it plugs into it, and then it just kind of bayonet clips. I don't know how well I'm gonna get this on video because I'm up in an attic. And then you just turn and it'll lock into place, and that's that. And then we got it covered, and that's that. I'm gonna just put my screw clip on down there, and then I'll head back downstairs. Okay guys, now I'm down in my basement. This is where we're going to have two different install portions. The first portion is if you're setting it up with an NVR, in this case is the TrendNet NVR 208 series, which I did an install video on, or I'm currently doing. And this is the back of that. There are 8 cameras, so it's an 8-channel input. This is the patch cable coming off of my patch panel where my camera is terminated. So as soon as I plug this in, it should start powering that camera up. And yeah, it should work on getting that guy up and ready and booted up. So let's go. Yep, there she goes. Now, if you were not doing this, if you were not doing a setup with an NVR and you were using just the standard PoE camera setup, and we were actually doing a direct off the memory card recording, then you would have 2 ways of doing that. One, you could use a power injector. So this is just a cheap, what is the brand on this? Cuddy. And I'll put a link down in the description if you're interested in purchasing something like this. Just a 30-watt power injector. So you have your, if you look down, let's see, here we go. Data in, and then power and data out. Power and data out, that's going to go to the camera. Power data in, that's going to go to your switch or to your router, whichever you have. And so basically this just sends power to the camera. If you have a power over Ethernet switch, which I do, I have a Cisco, you can plug it into any ports that have power over Ethernet enabled. So we're going to do that setup second. First, we're going to look at how it comes in on the NVR. And it's actually basically automatic because we are in port number 1. It's the only camera though. It should show up as number 1. And in otherwise, we'll show the other one here in a second. Okay, so in this setup, we're doing the NVR setup, which is going to be based on the TrendNet IPVU app. This is the app store where you can see the app. Let's hit open. What we're going to do is we're going to scan for the camera now that it's available, or in this case, we're actually scanning for the NVR itself. Any camera that's attached will automatically come into view. If I hit scan, I can see the NVR there. When you set up your NVR, you should have made a login with admin and then a password. I'm going to throw that in quick. And then I'll hit done, and then I'll hit the plus check. And now we're good. We don't see a plus anymore. That means it actually is listed. If we go to list, we can see all the cameras that are actually available, which are 8. Now, I only have 1, so I'm going to go ahead and check the 1 because I am in port number 1. And then I'll hit back, and then I'll hit view, and then I'll be able to see that specific camera which we did the setup on. Now, if we actually take the phone and we actually were to go on the front porch, we can take that shield back off and adjust the camera accordingly. But that's how you're going to set up the app in terms of this one camera with an NVR access. Let's look at setting up the camera if we were plugging it directly into PoE, directly into the switch or right into the router without an NVR. So setup in this case, this is the port that my camera is attached to. I'm going to go ahead and plug it directly into my switch. Now, like I said, my switch is power over Ethernet already rated. So as soon as I plug this baby in, we should actually get a light saying that it's booting up. Let's give it a second. There she goes. So it's definitely booting up. We're going to give it a minute to actually boot up. And once she's up and running, then we'll continue setup in our, to be honest, on the phone. Okay, so to get started, before we can set up the camera directly without the NVR, we are going to have to actually go through the camera utility, which can be downloaded to a Windows PC, not a Mac, from TrendNet TrendNet.com/camera utility. So just TrendNet.com/camera utility, and there it is. It's downloading, and we're gonna go ahead and open, and there's the camera utility right there, and we're gonna hit run. So this should be a camera utility, so where we can actually set up the camera. I'm assuming in do it on DHCP or on IP based, whichever. So install, hit next. We're going to install it on the system here so we can actually do the setup. So let's let that run. I'll create desktop shortcut. Sure, why not? That way I can get to it real quick and easy. Yep, I agree, whatever. Finish it up. Run the application. Okay. Public, allow access. Okay, so let me see if I can make this text a little bigger. Okay, so maybe hopefully that's a little bit easier to see. So in the camera utility, it did find my camera automatically. It does look like it already gave it an IP. I don't know if that's based on my router or, well, let's find out. There's a little check mark box next to it. Okay, cool. So on the right-hand side, we can see the device serial number, we can see the IP address, the port, subnet mask, all that information, and admin password we can actually add in. I'm going to actually enable DHCP because I'd rather my router to actually configure the actual IP address and then find that out. And then password itself, I'm going to go ahead and put in a password real quick. Let me do that. Okay, so I put in a password real quick, and then I'm going to hit modify. Parameter modifications accepted, it looks like. So we should be good to go. Let's hit refresh and see if it... Yep, so we can see that the actual IP address actually changed because now my router is basing the IP address 192.168.86.1. So I know the IP address based on the camera utility. Let's actually pop that open in a browser real quick. Sorry, I read the wrong. I read the gateway stuff. IP for there 192.168.86.101. That should be the camera address. Let's back it back out real quick. Let's go to the actual browser. .101. And we're there. So admin and then our new password. No. And so we can actually see, boom, there she comes up. Now this is on a Windows PC. Unfortunately, it looks as though the camera utility is only available on Windows, so I think that's stupid, but whatever. I think that should be a web-based portal rather than a camera utility application to make it more universal. Let's actually pull it up on a Mac and see how she comes up on there as well. Okay, so now we're on Safari, 192.168.86.101. And we got that. Admin and then password. Sure, I'll save it in here. And it's also working on Safari. So we can actually, well, there's my wife sitting on the on the porch. Now playback's not going to work because currently I do not have a memory card installed on this because I am planning on using it with the NVR system. But if you had a memory card installed when we were actually putting the camera up, then you'd actually be able to see recordings, and you could actually cycle through the past events. Also within the advanced setup, we should be able to actually access all the information in terms of like making events, setting up areas to what to block, what not to block. So video tampering, all these notifications you can set up within the system here on the Dome camera, or any of the TrendNet cameras for that matter. Storage right now, I don't have a memory card in there, so it's not showing anything, but that's understandable. I just wanted to show that this camera can be set up independently of the NVR system. So similar to the NVR system, we're going to be using the same TrendNet IPVU app, which here it is in the App Store. We're going to go ahead and open it, and we're going to set it up for use direct with the camera rather than through the NVR. Now we already did the camera utility setup where we actually did everything through there, because if you actually try to go into this app right away, even without doing the camera utility, you'll actually be able to scan and you'll be able to see it. You just won't be able to connect to it because, as you know, depending on your network settings, it may not be using DHCP, so the router may not be able to route you to it. So make sure you go through the camera utility setup on Windows before you do this. We'll hit plus here. You can see there's the IP address that we just set up. I'm going to go ahead and put admin and put my password in. Let me do that real quick. So we have the password in, hit done, we'll hit the checkmark plus, and now you can see there's no plus sign next to the camera, which means we do have it added in. Before we can actually view it, we do have to select it in the list to basically turn it on, and that's just going into the list and hitting the checkmark, then hitting back, and then going to view. And there she comes. So it just takes a second. It's a live view. Like I said, even from this app, there's going to be limited things you can do. You can take a quick photo or a quick video from the actual live view, but I'm not going to be able to access the feed from it. I'm going to have to go through the web portal to do that. But that's what it looks like, and that's how you can get this app set up directly with the camera. So originally when I actually had this all set up, and I directed it, and I have it exactly where I want it to be, of course, like anything, it was set up, but part of the review video, I really wanted to go over video quality, image quality, nighttime quality. But this is kind of one of those things that I want to include in the setup video, because one of the things that I noticed real quick was that as soon as it became night out and we went into IR camera modes, I was getting lots of IR camera bleed on the dome. The dome would just, because the infrared lights are on the inside of the camera, in here, it would just bleed all over. So what I did is I had some adhesive, it's actually some fiber for a big green egg, and it's adhesive on one side. It's just about 1/8 of an inch thick, maybe a little less. And I cut out a ring that went around the camera and stuck to it, but left the lens alone, but also left the IR lights alone. But it created a little bit thicker gap, kind of like if you had the same thing if you had like a little foam donut or something. And that's what I did, and it worked brilliantly. So let me show you what it looks like a little bit closer. So you can kind of see what I added, that little furry ring around it. It just adds a little bit extra thickness, nothing too crazy, but it keeps the infrared lights from bleeding. Basically, it's glaring off of the dome back into the camera. With that ring, it fixed it completely. It's just that's something that I think TrendNet should do out of the factory. So that's why I'm including on the setup video. Something I highly recommend to add is this. So if you have a camera similar to this from TrendNet, or maybe another brand that has the same issue, make sure you add that. I wouldn't add it until after I tried it for a night, just to make sure maybe it was just something with the settings of how I have mine angled. But that is a real quick and cheap way of getting that fixed. So that is the complete setup of the TrendNet Dome camera. Now, if you're interested in the product, I will put links down below to take a peek at. There are some things that I definitely want to say before I close on this install video, and the full review is going to come soon. But the requirement of using the IP utility, or the camera utility is what they call it, is something that shouldn't have to be done with a consumer grade camera, in my opinion. Professional grade cameras, you have to do that a lot with, but consumer grade, you should make it as streamlined, as easy as possible. You should definitely have an app available for the phone to be able to do that, but currently there isn't. So there's a lot of things that I think that can be improved on this system, and I really hope that they can do firmware updates and actually improve that system. But that said, in all reality, you can access it from any browser, unlike the NVR. Which is a big thing. So if I had my choice between doing an NVR-based system with multiple cameras or independent memory cards on the cameras in TrendNet's current state, I would do the camera setup with memory cards, just so I can easily access everything. So that's just my personal view. I will have a full review on TechGooch. I will put links down below when that is up and running. So if you have any questions for me, comment below, subscribe to the channel, share this video, give it a thumbs up, head over to techgooch.com. You can actually get a hold of me directly through the website. But that said, thanks for TrendNet for sending this over. Pretty solid camera. I would say work on the ring around the actual camera itself, it looks like. But like I said, the full review is coming. Just some things out of the gate. So if you have any questions for me, let me know. Otherwise, thanks for stopping by, and we'll catch you here on a future video setup or install. See you soon.